Yeah, no. I wasn't expecting that at all.
Now he's hella rich.
Good for him. And for Win.
Now he's hot and rich. Hello everyone, welcome back to Romancing the Monsters. I'm Em.
Hi, I'm S.
I'm Seth.
And today we are back in the Hathaways world with Seduce Me at Sunrise by Lisa Kleypas. This is the second book in the Hathaway series, as I just said. This one is about Kev and Win. Make sure to go and listen to the first episode in the series, which was about Mine Till Midnight, if you haven't already, obviously. And also, casual reminder that we also read the entirety of the Wallflower series last year. So that's also up on our page if you want to go ahead and listen to those.
Yeah.
So, Seth.
Yes.
What is this book about?
Well, this is about the much anticipated, I guess, story of Kev and Win. Much anticipated for me, and also As was curious about them.
It's a global phenomenon.
Yes.
Everyone is waiting with bated breath for this.
I'm sorry, but Kevin, Win, I'm pretty sure when the first book came out, people were like, oh my gosh, I need their book.
Yeah, I can see it.
So in my head, I think they're much anticipated.
Sure, okay, much anticipated for Seth.
Anyways, continuing on. So the book starts off with a flashback. Doesn't start off, but it starts off with Win going off to get treatment for her illness. She had scarlet fever and it left her weak and unable to, walk or do any sort of strenuous activity. So she left to get her treatment, and it flashes back to when they were children, and we find Kev, who was rescued by the Hathaway family as a young child, him growing up in this family and being a part of this family. And him and Win kind of form a bond really early on in their childhood. And they've always had this bond, and she got, like I said, scarlet fever, and then things kind of went downhill in terms of her health. And he kind of, never let himself reach that level of, love or anything. A relationship was never an idea for him. Anyways, cut to 2 years later, she comes back. She's healed. She's not fully healed, but she's on the cusp of being fully healed. Anyway, so she comes back, and she's a new woman, and she came with a goal to, seduce Merripen and maybe somehow get him to see her as a romantic partner. Yeah, she also brings Dr. Harrow, and he was a doctor who helped heal her, and thus starts the push and pull that is Kev and Kev and Win.
So, let's start with you, Seth. How about we do that? Because I feel like we never start with you. Mm-hmm. How did you feel about this book upon your reread?
Wow. I think I've been maybe vocal with everyone that I talked to about the series that this is one of my favorites, and I was kind of nervous to go back to it because I haven't read it in such a long time, and because I kind of was worried that my feelings might have changed reading it. But nope, safe to say I still loved this book. I loved the characters. It really fed me the angst that I wanted, and this book was hella angsty, and I love angst. That being said, their story was beautiful to read about again, and yeah, I wasn't bored at all reading this book again for the third time, I think.
Yeah, this was the second time. Oh, third time, wow. This was the second time for me. First time I read it, I enjoyed it, obviously. But I remember it not being my favorite in the series.
Yeah.
beyond that, I honestly did not remember anything from this book whatsoever. So it was, for me, it was kind of going into it as if it's kind of like a new book. Because, like, obviously, as I was reading it, I remembered, you know, little bits and pieces of it.
Aspects, yeah.
But for the most part, it kind of felt new to me. And I will say, I was honestly pleasantly surprised. Like, I ended up liking this more, I think, the second time around than I did the first time around. I will say, second chance at love, or whatever it's called, second chance romance, is never really my favorite trope. Also, childhood friends to lovers is not my favorite trope. And so I always... And the reason for that is because I love the falling in love part of a romance.
Books,
you know,
yeah.
that's what gets me going. That's what feeds my soul. And here, you don't get that as much. It's very much like the after part. Like, you know, they are in love. That's kind of like a fact. Both of them know this about themselves, and they know this about the other. It's just a question of, like, letting themselves get there together, if that makes sense. So it's a different kind of story for me, something I'm not used to, and something I don't really reach for very often. I did feel like I was missing those parts, but because of the whole setting and because of their, you know, respective lives and where they come from, it didn't bother me per se, because, like, if anything, this felt weirdly like the closest Lisa Kleypas has ever come to, like, a mating bond.
Right?
It's very much like, oh, it was fated type of thing, you know? So for that reason, like, it's not like it bothered me, but I still, like, was missing that a little bit, you know, just a little bit. But I really like them as characters, you know, and I do enjoy their relationship together, and I do feel like I would feel the angst more deeply if I had seen the falling in love part of the relationship. Since I haven't, I was still feeling the emotions, you know, like, I wasn't, like, you know, bored or anything, but I feel like I would have felt it more had I gotten those earlier, you know, the earlier stage of, like, hey, I like this dude.
So did you end up loving it a little bit more than the first time, you feel?
I did. Yeah, no, that's what I said. I liked it more this time around, I think, than I did the first time the first time I read it.
But do you still prefer Mine Till Midnight over Seduce Me at Sunrise?
I think I prefer this book to the first one.
Okay.
But for me, this series has always been the last three.
Yeah, okay, I can see that. All right, S, I'm like dying to hear your thoughts.
The only thing I want to say is that I want to find someone that will love me
like Kev.
Right.
Like Kev loves Win.
Right? Isn't it so beautiful, but also so...
It is.
He was like a shell of a man when she went for 2 years. And like, my heart breaks. I love him. Anyway, sorry, I cut in. Continue.
No. But I loved it. I enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed it a little bit more than I was expecting. I did feel a little bit of the angst. I wasn't as annoyed with their, like, push and pull that they had throughout the book. My only fucking issue I have with this story is the fact that they didn't burn down the wardrobe with Dr. Harrow.
With the guy in it?
He's it's not Dr. Harrow, it's Dr. Hell No.
To be honest, he should have died. He should have.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I mean...
The fact that he killed his first wife and was planning to kill Merripen.
Yeah.
Not cool. Not cool, dude. And who knows who else he killed.
Yeah, true. Yeah. But I loved it. It was I think I loved it more than the first book, I will say.
No, this book holds a special place in my heart. And I think it, like Marge mentioned, it kind of felt like a mating bond. And for me, in the sense where they literally could not live without each other. They're at that point in their life, like, they're so dependent on, like, each other's love, but also just, like, their presence, that, like, being without them meant, like, they couldn't really live without the other person.
Yeah, when we recorded Mine Till Midnight, I said, I think this is Lisa Kleypas's attempt at, like, a book that's loosely based on Wuthering Heights.
Yeah.
And remember that quote from Wuthering Heights that's like, whatever our souls are made of...
His and mine are the same.
It's that.
No, of course. And I even feel like down to his confession of love when they're on the terrace, like that confession is one of my favorites ever, and it reads so Heathcliff like, and like I have it, I can pull it up, but it's just like the way that he just says it, and like it's not even coming from a place of love, it's just like a place from like anger and just,
but also desperation. Like he's desperate when he says that. Read it, please.
Okay.
It's worth it.
So this is where they're on the terrace. She just danced with Dr. Harrow at the ball at Simon and Annabelle's place. And Merripen kind of kicks Dr. Harrow back inside, and then him and Wynne kind of have it out. And he tells her, all the fires of hell could burn for 1,000 years, and it wouldn't equal what I feel for you in 1 minute of the day. I love you so much, there's no pleasure in it. Nothing but torment. Because if I could dilute what I feel for you to the millionth part, it would still be enough to kill you. And even if it drives me mad, I would rather see you live in the arms of that cold, soulless bastard than die in mine.
Oh, I love him.
And that shows a fucking mindset.
How did she not faint on the spot?
He even, like, at the beginning of the book, he references Hades and Persephone.
Yes.
And he sees himself as Hades. And he's like, I don't want to drag her into death and darkness with me. And I was like, okay, Kev, hitting all of my buttons here. I see.
And I love how Wynne was like, maybe she wanted to stay. Because the sisters were like, why would she just eat pomegranates? Like, why would you do that? And then Wynne's like, maybe she just wanted to stay, so she just ate pomegranates, you know? Like, she just...
Yeah.
Wanted to stay.
What if she wanted to stay in the darkness with him?
Yeah.
What if she liked it there?
Yeah.
All right, so first off, there's a lot of, well, I mean, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but there's a lot of mentions of a certain Harry Rutledge in this book, and that's relevant.
Oh my gosh, girl, you could wait a bit.
Fine. Well, I mean...
No, you already brought him up. Let's talk about him.
I just wanted to say, there's a lot of mentions of that, and, you know, if you know anything about the series, then you may or may not know that, you know, he may or may not have a role coming up. Anyway, all this to say, I'm just very excited to see S's response to him.
She hasn't
Could
met
go
him yet.
either way. I know.
Okay.
I'm just like I said, I'm very, very ahead. You know, I'm should be talking about this right now, but I'm.
So
just...
is he a fan favorite?
No.
He's a Marge favorite.
Oh.
Is he?
No, but I love him too. He's an interesting character.
He's not a Marge favorite. He is what he is, and he's a controversial one.
Yes,
I think
he's the most controversial Lisa Kleypas hero. I think Derek Craven, yes, but he stands on, like, his own. I'm talking in terms of, like, her series. Maybe Tom. No, I feel like there's something about Harry that everyone, like, he rubbed...
Tom is not controversial.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, I can't think of any. I just feel like for Harry, he rubbed people the wrong way. A lot of people.
The wrong way. But the good way for me, anyway. The right way.
Same. I loved him.
You guys are talking about him. When am I going to meet him? When is
He's
his
the next
book?
book.
Next book.
Okay.
He's Poppy's guy.
Okay. I guess then we shall see.
I don't know. Honestly, I'm just saying that because it could go either way. You know, like, I've been so wrong with my predictions so far when it comes to S.
Yeah.
That I just don't know. You know, she might read the book and be like, that's what y'all wanted me to read.
Yeah.
And also, she might be like, best fucking thing ever. I don't know.
No, fair warning, though. That book, it took me... maybe one read and then another reread to fully appreciate that book, to be honest. At least for me. Like, that was young Sephra. But speaking of Leo, we're so jumping all over the place. But anyways, he is the brother. He is the sibling that gets chosen, or just decides, I guess, to go with Wynne to France to heal. And during that time, he also kind of healed himself. How did you feel about his character? Because you're seeing him after, like, post-suicide attempt.
I feel like he grew a lot in this book. And then he shared some wisdom. There was a line that he shared with Kev where I was like, yes!
Yo, that whole scene when Kev is in the prison or whatever, and he's rotting away, and Leo has this whole speech. I was, like, clapping from the sidelines. I was like, yes, Leo! All these things coming out of you are just perfect right now.
It was such a good speech. And, like, when he told, like... I think he told Kev, he's like, would you not want to live with her? Like, do you not have the courage to live with her? You have the courage to die for her or with her.
Oh, let me say that line. Let me say that line. I have it highlighted.
Oh, sorry.
He says, if you had the bollocks to die with her, don't you think you could work up the courage to live with her? And I'm just like, that got me right there.
Right?
Yeah.
Ugh, Leo. And I love how he's like, you know what? Don't let him out yet. Let me get a running start. But then let him out after.
Yeah, because the thing is, and that really got me in the feels when Leo said that he knew that when Win was really unwell, Kev had prepared enough of whatever it was that he prepared to off himself if she were to die. And I was like,
yeah. No, and then you find like the reason why Leo was so hateful towards Merripen, because he's like, you saved me.
Because he denied that,
Yeah, you denied me the chance of reuniting with Laura in death, but you were going to do it anyway with Win. And I love that we were able to see that in the flashback chapter of like him like reaching that spot and like, you know, with Win dying in his arms. And he's sorry, I just choked up my spit.
She got choked up. She got so emotional.
Literally.
Anyways, yes. So like him like being able to be in his head at that moment in the flashback was really really heartbreaking.
Yeah. And Leo said something like, at least speaking, I think her name was Laura.
Yeah, Laura.
I think he says something like, at least she died knowing that she was loved, and you're not even gonna give that to Win, even though like everyone fucking knows.
Yeah.
Everyone knows.
Yeah.
I love the scene when after they've gotten together, they've had sex. Oh, well, I mean, I shouldn't jump the...
Why are we jumping so far?
Go. Well, because I just wanted to say, I just love how nobody has a fucking reaction. Everyone's like, yeah, y'all fucked all through the entire night. It's cool.
No, Cam reminded me of the mom from Mean Girls, and where he's like, do you need anything? Like condoms? When he comes to the cottage with like food and clothes and everything. I love it.
I love... Okay. I was going to jump again. I'm going to not do that, and I'm going to go back to something I briefly mentioned. Okay. I realized while reading this book that the whole kidnapping tradition that I talked about in the last episode, Until Midnight, I think this was in this book. I think that was a memory from this book that I thought happened in the first one. Or does it also happen in the first one?
The kidnapping happens in the first book. It just got cut out, remember? It got cut out from the first book.
But it's here as well, and the way that it's here is the way I was remembering it.
Oh, okay. Well, it did happen in the first book, but in this one I feel like it was explained a bit more, and I feel like we got more of the Romani culture.
It was hot, let me tell you. It was hot.
It was so hot. Did you at least have that scene, or was that cut out?
It was in the audiobook.
Yeah. Okay.
It is hot, and I don't want to talk about the sex only 20 minutes into this episode, but let me tell you, it was good. It was good.
Yo.
It was.
Let it be known that Kev was the only one so far that has introduced bondage and other things.
She's also the first one who's given head.
She's given head, yeah. She gave head to him.
Yeah.
Is it really
She's
the first
one to do that?
Yeah?
I think so.
Yo.
Maybe Evie in Devil in Winter.
Yeah.
Briefly when he was hurt, when he was on the mend, but not sure.
Yes. No, I think she did. But, Win was just thirsty.
Win just wanted a taste.
Yeah.
She got it.
Got the taste.
Yeah.
But for real, like, I really wasn't expecting these sex scenes to be as hot as they were. But there's, like, a raw sensuality to Kev that cannot be understated. He's so aware of his physicality that it completely transforms scenes for me. Like, you just feel that there's so much intent in what he's doing with his body. You know what I mean? Like, he's very attentive, but also in control of the situation and what's happening. And he's very much, like, present. Like, you feel that he's present with his, in his body, which could come from the fact that he was, you know, seen as like a warrior way back when he was, you know, still with his tribe, which when you fight, you're very, very aware of your body. You're very, you know, focused and grounded in your own body. So I get that feeling from him. Like, he's very physical in that way. And it just adds to the sex scenes for me.
No, I was going to say, I feel like I could say the opposite. Like, he was very much not in control in their first few encounters. You know, like, when she first comes back from France and she goes to his bedroom, he has zero control. Even when he realizes it's Win, he's like, oh my gosh, I'm like gonna fuck her right now. And then he pulls back finally. And then the second time when they're in the museum and then like legit they like start making out like in a corridor and like he has zero control. But then like once he makes that decision that he's gonna love her and be with her, yes, that's when he has his control.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like when they actually start having sex.
Yeah.
Like when he finally breaks down and he's like, all right, I'm doing this. I cannot not do this. Like, it's inevitable. We have to be together. And then he just does the thing and he kidnaps her, which is lovely.
I just like Lisa Kleypas writes their relationship with such desperation that you feel it as a reader. Like for me, I felt how much they yearn for one another. Like just between words. I just think it's so interesting to me that like I felt it so immensely.
But to backtrack a little bit, sorry, this is chaotic. At the beginning of this book, Win is very much sick and tired of Kev.
Yeah.
Of his denial of what they could have, but he refuses that for the both of them. He denies them that happiness together, and she's like, all right, you know what? I've spent so much of my fucking life in a bed, being sick, not being able to do what I want to do, being seen as an invalid, and she's like, okay, well, he doesn't want me? That's fine. I'm gonna find myself someone else. I'm gonna move on.
Yeah.
I'm gonna find something else. And, like, sure, okay, the guy that she finds is not stellar, but, you know, I like that she had that intention. She was like, okay, you know what? You don't want me? That's fine. But I'm at a place in my life where I have this, like, hunger for life. You know, she's very much like, she wants to live. She wants to love. She wants to be happy. She wants to do all the things that she wasn't able to do before. And if that's not with Kev, then that's not with Kev. And that's fine with her. She's going to move on with someone else. And I'm like, yes, girl. Yes.
No, I liked that, and I liked that she indicated that. But can we talk about the moment when she comes back and Dr. Harrow is literally, trying to help her with her breathing exercises, and they're doing yoga, I think. And then Kev comes in and he sees her literally in, like, clothes that look like her underwear, and he freaks out. How did you guys feel about that?
He's so jealous and so possessive. We love to see it. But don't jump over the scene where she comes back to his room that first night. He mistakes her for a prostitute.
I gasped at that part.
Okay, Mr. Man.
I can make use of you tonight. And I'm like, this bitch.
So isn't it like a known fact that the only women he was having sex with were prostitutes?
I think so, yeah.
Like, he never had a mistress. He never had, like, just a lady, a lady friend. It was always, like, prostitutes. Like, he paid for it.
He never cared. It sounds bad, but he never cared about anyone but Win.
Yeah. And I feel he probably felt very, he felt comfortable with it being a transaction.
Yeah.
He probably didn't want it any other way. So
wait, I have a question real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it Camp's book where he pretends? Was it Camp's book or whose book was it? No, Craven, where he pretends Sarah.
Where he holds the prostitute for the night. Yeah. That was Derek.
That situation. Do you prefer that situation or this situation where he sleeps with prostitutes but he doesn't care?
I'm not the right person to ask. Neither of them bother me.
I'm asking Seth because of the discussion we had when we recorded that.
Sure.
Okay. So in this case, I think I thought like Win, where she's like, we're not romantically involved. We never made promises to one another. I think I'm okay with it in the sense where like he had zero emotions with that person that he is sleeping with. But I also find it heartbreaking that he never allowed himself to form connections with anyone else. You know, like he he's so isolated. And, like, it's just, like, it's heartbreaking, but at the same time, I understood what was going on, and I understood where he was coming from. But, like, when they weren't promised to one another. What about you, S? How did you feel?
No,
Because I know you had issues about what was going on with Derek and the prostitute.
No, but I just gasped, and I guess it was expected. Like, I agree with what you said, that they weren't promised to one another. He just slept with people just to get off. Like, there wasn't any intimate connection, so.
And the way he was lifting up her dress and, like, getting ready to fuck her on the table.
But doesn't it faze you guys that, like, he doesn't even ask a question? Like, who sent you to me? Where are you coming from? Who do you work for? What are your prices? He just like, okay, you're here. Great.
Maybe.
I just like, what?
Maybe your guy Harry just has connections and, like, he has, like...
Oh, he sends ladies to... I wouldn't put it past him, to be honest.
So.
I wouldn't put it past him. Speaking of... No, I'm doing a very bad transition here. I'm not going to do it, in fact. Let's talk about Kev's mindset regarding this relationship, shall we?
Yes.
He says Kev had, well, he doesn't say that. He, it's in his POV. It says Kev had nothing to offer Win except degradation. And I was like, wow, that is a strong word.
Yeah.
That shows, like, this is not just like, oh, he has no self-esteem or, like, he doesn't see his own worth or whatever. Degradation is, like, to me, a whole other level. To me, anyway, the images that it brings up is, like, violence and humiliation. Isn't that... And he's so soft with her, and yet he still sees himself as that. Like, he still believes that that's what he would give her.
Well, I mean, imagine, I can't even imagine, to be honest, living the way he did as a child, living in basically the worst living environments, not even having a bed to call his own.
Treated like a dog.
Yeah, he's not even given food. He's like, his uncle expects him to die, basically.
He's forced to fight to the death with others, so he's killed people.
Yeah, his upbringing was not the kindest, and of course he finds the Hathaways. And of course they're loving, and of course they want him to better himself in terms of education and, like, going to, like, college and finding a life for himself. But, like, when you don't have that, like you said, self-worth, and not even realizing how much you are worth it, it's just, like, it's heartbreaking. But at the same time, he's never really grown to love himself. Or, like, he was never taught to love himself, I would say.
Mm-hmm. And he even says, if Win married one day, it would have to be to a gentleman, a gentle man.
Yes.
I love the play on words here, because she repeats that. He says to a gentleman, then she says to a gentle man. And I'm like, baby boy, you are a gentleman.
You are so gentle to her.
You are.
And I love the little callback that Win makes to, when she goes to her room in, like, Hampshire, and it's the mansion that's like newly done again. So she goes back, and then she sees the wallpaper, and it's like robins, and then she recalls that he used to clean her window every single day, so she could see the birds.
He was so careful about choosing that wallpaper.
Yeah.
He was so particular about what it was gonna be.
Yeah.
My heart.
It's just he never recognized how gentle and kind he was towards Win, and, like, how much of his heart she held. And it just, like, it mind boggles me that he doesn't see his worth. But I mean, at the same time, like we said,
He sees himself as a villain.
Yeah, he does.
Yet he couldn't be further from being a villain. Like, he was taken into this family. He's been taking care of this family as a older brother for decades, because the actual older brother was not doing his fucking job. He's been taking care of Win. He's been so gentle with her. And, just to me, the fact that he questions whether or not he could hurt her just proves that he's gentle in his nature, that he, cares and wants to be very careful with her.
No, and it's like he doesn't even recognize his own, like, gentleness with Beatrice and Poppy and even Amelia. Him and Amelia have an interesting bond. where like they kind of rely on each other, and like they're kind of like the authoritative figure for the younger sisters, and he doesn't recognize his relationship that he's built with those women. And even Leo, like I feel like him and Leo also, like they had, yes, a struggling bond, but like by the end of the story it's very much cemented and it's very much like on equal ground.
Speaking of Leo, there's a new character introduced here.
Yes.
The Governess.
Miss Marks.
Who Leo, and the Governess have a little bit of a rivalry going on. I'm just interested to know what S thinks of that.
Yeah, what do you think?
So far, I'm not as intrigued, I guess.
I think book 3 will
we'll see.
Cement that
We'll
for
see.
you.
I hope so.
I think.
But how did you feel about, you can't even mention Leo and Miss Marks without even mentioning Dodger.
The star of the show, yes.
Yes, the star of the
ferret.
show. The ferret. How did you feel about this ferret that loves Miss Marks's garter belts?
Okay, so the ferret, I love the ferret. I love that little animal thrown into the mix. Is there going to be more of little critters?
They just keep
yeah.
coming in, girl.
Oh, yeah.
This is the newest edition, but it doesn't end here.
Okay. I do have a question. He ended up stealing a key, which I kind of didn't understand. What was the key that he stole at the end?
No, are you talking about the scene where Win and Kev are in the cottage and like they're having sex, and then the ferret comes in and like steals the key, so they're not allowed out or whatever?
Is that what it was, that he stole the key and they're locked in?
I think it was the key to the door.
Oh, okay. And they're locked in there for who knows how long, right?
But they never showed them come out, so I don't
No.
know how they got out.
Broke a window. I don't
It's Kev. I mean, I'm pretty sure he knows how to like pick a lock or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe the key will come back. I have no idea.
I don't remember.
I just love that Beatrix's ferret steals as well.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like mother, like child.
Yeah.
I know. I know. I think in this book you really finally get the full sense of what the Hathaway family is like, and you see their chemistry amongst each other, and they honestly feel like a real family. Like I honestly feel like I know the Hathaway family because of like how close-knit they are, and like the chemistry between all these characters. I feel like they each complement each other really well, including Dodger.
Yeah. It's a different kind of bond than the Wallflowers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's probably more complex as a result because these are not people that chose each other. It's people that were born, you know, of the same blood and had to, you know, coexist. So, you know, it's not perfect, but that's what families are, right? That's what makes it feel so real. It's like, yeah, you recognize that, like, you know, sibling bond and sibling rivalry in between people. And, yeah. Speaking of, there was a reveal of a little secret here in this book.
Yeah, but before we get to it, I kind of wanted to talk about like the portrayal of the Romani people.
Oh, okay, sure.
No, I just wanted to like, you know, just mention and note that like in this book I feel like we see a different side of them in the sense where we actually get to see them and like have dialogue with them, and also just like the way like their presence is like interwoven in like the story with Kev, and like I feel like you get more of like a Romani sense of Kev than you did of Cam because he was very much embedded. And he never identified it as anything else. He didn't know he was, you know, half Irish until later on, like until this book. But yeah, I liked seeing it.
Yeah, I love the little dancing scene at the end.
The
where he's
betrothal,
like, you put your hands in the air and your feet to the ground.
Yeah. It was just like a celebration of their culture, and I feel like it was great to see other members of the ton there. Like of like the family, they're like part of like the celebration. But I feel like he needed to celebrate both sides of himself, you know? Like he is a Romani, but he's also, you know, part of the Hathaways.
But also he had no, like, you know how Cam was kind of like always longing to go back to that lifestyle?
Yeah.
Probably because he knew he had been taken out of it and he had these like ideals of it that he wanted to go back to. You know, justifiably so, but for Kev, I never got the feeling that he wanted to go back to it. So he was very much like grounded in his culture still, and yet not fully a part of it. He was, with the Hathaways and kind of happily coexisting with the two cultures in a way.
Yeah.
So I didn't get the feelings here that I got with Cam, where he kind of lets that dream go and he's like, all right, I guess I'll never go back to that.
Yeah.
Here it's like, no, it was always a part of him, so it's not like an issue.
No, and I think for the difference in this case was, this is going to sound really corny, but I feel like Kev had found his home with Win, and he wasn't really, he found his like resting place with Win, and he wasn't searching for anything else.
Noah sounded really hot.
Oh my gosh. Noah sounded so hot.
I'm sad that
he never got a book. Yeah,
we never see more of him.
No.
He has long dark hair, and like right from that sentence I was like, sold.
No, and I love how Kev was like, and he was a very attractive man, and I was like, for Kev to notice this,
for Kev
he
to
must
notice
be hella
that,
hot.
Yeah, dead gorgeous.
Yeah.
But to go back to what I wanted to talk about, which was the big reveal here, Cam and Kev are in fact related. They are brothers.
Thank you, Maury.
S. Thoughts, feelings. I mean, I think you said last episode that you kind of suspected
they were related siblings or cousins. But I thought that Kev is the older one, right? And then Cam is the younger one.
I didn't know that. I didn't remember that.
I thought it was the opposite. For some reason, I thought Cam would be the older and Kev would be the younger.
How did you feel about their reaction to that?
I feel like they suspected it, but didn't. I don't even know how to say it. Kind of didn't want it to be true, or they didn't want to get their hopes up, and then turn out not to be related, or from the same tribe, or.
No, I was just going to say, when Kev found out that, Cam was potentially his brother or is his brother, he's like how you would expect him to be. He was very like, nah, it doesn't change anything. You're not my brother. Blood doesn't mean anything. And Cam's like, I want family, so you are my brother. Did you expect that reaction from the two of them?
I mean, it's very in character for both of them. I feel like it's exactly what you expect.
Yeah. I did not expect Kev, welcoming that bond anytime soon.
For Cam, I think he always, the bigger the family can be, the happier he is, For him, he did describe this as his tribe, To him, it's just welcoming more people and making them his family. For Kev, he was very reluctant to actually dig up the truth. Because he knew. Like, I think both of them knew it would be true, but they kind of... Kev didn't want to, he didn't want the confirmation.
Yes. Because he's such a lone wolf, I would say.
Yeah.
But also, like, seeing Cam as, like, the big brother. Like, I feel like I kind of personally still see him as, like, the big brother. But he's more so, like, like, now he's an authoritative figure in the Hathaway family. And I thought it was interesting seeing him in that light. Because, like, now he's, like, he's got a big fam. And I just love seeing that for him.
But doesn't it work out just perfectly? Like, Cam is the head of the Hathaway family, and now Kev has a fortune in the making. He's gonna be an earl.
This man's gonna go live in Ireland. Did you expect that little plot twist, S? Like, him being able to...
Yeah, no. I wasn't expecting that at all.
Now he's hella rich.
Good for him. And for
Win.
Win.
Even better. Now he's hot and rich.
But I love that he only took the money. Sorry, I was just going to say, I love that he only agreed to that, position and the money for Win. Because he's like, he wants to give Win all the opportunities she can have. And, like, I love that for this man. He is so...
And yet she would live in, like, a cottage being dirt poor with him. Like, it doesn't matter to her.
It doesn't, but for him, he wants her to have the very best. And I just, like... Love that in a man,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We've established that Kev is very much the man who will literally do anything to give the woman that he loves everything she wants in life. However, one thing that Win very, very much wants is babies.
Yeah.
And that's something she longs for, and that she's been told by doctors, aka Dr. Hell No, that she couldn't have. Because of her health, it was, supposedly dangerous, that, it would probably kill her or whatever. And Kev obviously has this, like, anxiety about the whole thing because, it's the trope where he literally believes that he could kill her with his dick.
Love that.
But he's scared of that, and he doesn't want to give her that. And that's part of why also he doesn't want to marry her, because he's absolutely terrified of consummating the marriage.
Mm-hmm.
There's this very good scene where she's with, so it's a scene where Dr. Harrow is there, she's there, and Kev is there, and she's with someone's child. I believe it's Annabelle's and Hunt's baby. Is that possible? There's a child, and she's with the child, or she sees, I think it's Annabelle taking care of
Or is it
Isabel,
not Amelia?
her
No,
kid.
Amelia is pregnant in this one.
Amelia is pregnant
Never
at
mind.
that point. Anyway, and he sees just how much she wants
that.
this. Anyway, I just want your thoughts on essentially that whole debate, because it is kind of the heart of the plot, is this problem between the two of them. She wants kids. She thinks that she can, and she's not scared of the possible, risks.
Yeah.
He's unwilling to accept that and to give her what she wants in this instance because he's terrified of the risks.
Yeah.
What did you guys think?
I think it just shows how much he loves her and cares about her.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not willing to risk it, even though, I mean, she can have kids. I feel like the way Dr. Harrow played it up, I just wanted to punch him when he had the conversation with the guys.
I honestly feel like he was lying about it, Like, I didn't believe it for a second because
the
of
vibes
his
were off.
intent. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like you said, it was, Kev really cared about Wynn, and he wanted her to be alive and, for her to just be alive. But she wanted to be able to have a life and live a life. And for her, that meant having children and being married and, like, having a life in that sense.
I think this could be an instance that would make some readers roll their eyes and be like, ugh, can you guys not talk to each other for fuck's sake? Like, whatever. But to me, I actually understood both sides of that argument very well, because you completely understand where Wynn is coming from.
Mm-hmm.
She's spent so much of her life not being able to do anything, not being able to reach for her own happiness, and she's at a point where she's like, this is my body, and if I so choose to use it in this matter to have the kids that I want in my life, then that is a risk that I'm willing to take.
Yes.
And it's my body, my own risks. But you also understand his perspective, where he's like, well, I should be made aware of that. You shouldn't be lying to me if I'm participating in something that might put you at risk. I also have the right to not want to participate in that, So you see both of their sides, and yeah, I just think it's a great conversation that they have, that they end up having on that front.
How did you feel about the lie, though? Because she tells him and not everyone, but him basically, that she saw a doctor in London, and the doctor said it's A-okay, she can have children, no problem. And she tells this to Kev, and that was kind of the green light for them to have sex and consummate their relationship. How did you feel about the little lie?
I mean, I wasn't mad at her, Like, I understand her part of wanting kids and wanting to take control of that, but I also understand why Kev was upset.
Yeah. And I love her little justification. It was like, Dr. Harrow said, I can go to millions of doctors and one of them will give me the answer I want to hear. So she's like, so instead of, like, wasting my time, the doctor in my head said, yes, I can have children.
Yeah.
I don't fault her for lying. I think she understands that that's the only way she was ever gonna get him to accept this.
Yeah.
Which, it's never great to start things on lies. I'll admit that much.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, if she truly believes something and she believes that her body is capable of doing this thing and she wants it and she's aware of the risks, it's not like she's, blinded to them and like pretending like they're not there, then why not?
Yeah.
And I just love that when their kid is born.
Oh.
Well, first of all, they had to get Kev drunk during the birth process.
I know.
And then afterwards, I just love that when he sees his kid for the first time, he literally cries in relief. He cries. He
cries.
bawls his eyes out.
And he knocks out. He literally knocks out beside her because he was so stressed. I love it. And exhausted. Okay, but speaking of, we didn't even mention, we jumped all around in this episode. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we really did. So sorry.
Yeah, but speaking of a situation where her choice was taken away from her, and I'm speaking of the compromise.
I know where you're going, girl, and let's go fucking there, because that asshole. Yes.
Okay.
Continue.
The compromise of Wynn. So, earlier we mentioned she's on the terrace with Merripen. He did his love confession, and kind of at that moment, it was like, it was heated, and they made out. Nips were shown, things like that. They kind of get seen by someone at the party, and quickly rumor spreads around that Wynn is very loose with her affections, and she was compromised, and so she ends up in the library with her whole family, with, I believe Simon was also there, and the doctor, and Kev is also there, and they're trying to figure out what happened, and they know she was compromised, and they all know it was Kev, but who steps up to save her virtue?
Dr. Hell no.
And who stayed silent during the whole ordeal?
Kev stays silent. Dr. Hell no walks in. He's like, I'm the one who compromised her. We'll get married by morning. And Kev stays silent. Why? Because of that quote that Seth read where he literally said, I would rather see her married off to that cold asshole than to be married to me. And he lets it happen. Even though she's unhappy, he can literally see that makes her unhappy. Like, they share a look, and she's literally begging him with her eyes to acknowledge that he's the one who compromised her, and he refuses to do so.
Yes. Was this another bitch-ass Kev? Bitch-ass Bowen?
Bitch-ass Kev.
Definitely. Yeah.
How did you feel about him not standing up, though? Did you expect him to be like, actually, I did?
Yeah, so I expected him to speak up and then for him to kind of keep her at arm's length for a while. But yeah, it did piss me off that he stayed quiet and he didn't speak up, even after Dr. Harrow claimed that it was him and whatnot.
And I love for Wynn, that was kind of a turning point for her. She's like, you know what? This man will never acknowledge his feelings for me. So I'm just going to tell Dr. Hell no to speed up the marriage and let's get married next week. And she was fully ready to do that and let go of her feelings for Kev until he kidnapped her, of course.
Yeah. It is important how much she's not holding on to someone who is not showing her that he wants her.
Exactly.
Or that he's gonna step forward and say so. You know, gotta appreciate and respect that. She's like, all right, fine. She's not happy about it, and she knows it won't be, the best marriage she could have had, but she's like, I'll make do with it, and we'll probably grow to care about each other, and it will be fine.
Yeah.
What she doesn't know is that her future husband is a murderer, but that's besides the point.
I know. No, I was just gonna say, after they were Kev and Wynn had sex, he kind of mentions to Wynn, he was like, he would not have let the marriage happen. He would have dragged her from the wedding if he had to. Do you believe that? Do you think he would have done that?
No.
Do you think he's just saying that?
No, I think he's willing to make himself unhappy enough to not do that.
But he said he would have. That he wouldn't be able to let her marry someone else.
I don't believe that.
You don't?
I don't believe that. He's a martyr. He would have just, stood by the sidelines and watched her get married to a man who would have made her unhappy.
Yeah.
And probably killed her eventually.
Yeah. I believe that.
Then he would have murdered the bastard 3 times over. But, you know.
No, if Leo didn't have that talk with him, I honestly feel like we would be reading a different book.
Yeah, it's a very important moment. And again, not just for Kev, but for Leo.
For Leo.
It just shows how much work, he's done with himself.
Yeah, because beforehand, he would never have been able to even contemplate a discussion with the name Laura, you know?
Right? Yeah.
So I feel like we should also acknowledge his growth as a person as well.
Did you guys see that clip of, what's his name? Is it Andrew Garfield or something on Late Show or whatever with,
about grief?
Yeah, talking about grief, his conversation about grief. It reminds me of Leo here.
Really? I didn't watch it.
Of how you have to change the way that you see grief. Andrew was saying, is that Andrew Garfield? Is that his name?
Yeah.
He was saying, because he lost his mother, and he was saying that grief is the love that you didn't get to express to the person that you love, essentially. That, like, he sees it as just an opportunity to keep on loving that person.
Aww.
To keep, so he was saying, like, I hope that grief never leaves me. I hope I continue to grieve my mother my whole life so that I can keep on showing her the love that I have for her. It's a beautiful way of seeing grief.
Yeah.
And I think Leo is slowly but surely, heading in that direction where he's finally able to not see griefs as something that haunts him or as something that, he's never gonna be able to climb out of, and you don't have to, grief is something that I think you carry your whole life.
Yeah.
It comes in waves and it's just never gonna leave you, and there are moments where you really wish that person was still there and they're not, and that's okay. You can acknowledge that and move on, but not let that make you unhappy or whatnot. So anyway, I just I don't know why it reminded me of that, but it did.
No, that I have to go watch that clip. I like Andrew.
So should we get into the monster
Sure.
of the book?
Sure.
Unless you guys had any other scenes in particular you wanted to discuss.
Oh, yes. I wanted to talk quickly about the poor Cam getting poisoned with the poison that was made for Kev.
Yeah.
Did you fear for his life for a moment there?
Yeah,
a little bit. There's a moment where, like, if she fucking kills him, like, that's it. I'm done with the series. But then I know, it wasn't gonna happen.
I love how his one thought was Amelia. Like, he was, like, grieving the loss, like, the lost possibility of, like, growing old with her, like, seeing her. And just, like, it was just Amelia he was thinking about. And I'm like, boy. Yeah.
Literally the last word on his lips as he was dying was Amelia. And then the first word when he woke up again was Amelia.
Yeah. I know.
Ugh. Makes me all warm and fuzzy.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it makes me all horny.
I know, I heard horn too, right?
I mean...
No, but I want to bring up that scene because I feel like that's when Kev kind of had a wake-up call and he was like, this is my brother, and I want to be able to love him, and I want to be able to call him my brother. And, like, he
claims him as his brother. I think it surprises him. Like, he kind of just does it, and then he's like, oh, wow, I just called him my brother like that with like strangers. Like, I acknowledged that we are brothers.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, well, it's done now. Like, it's out there. We're brothers. We acknowledge that. And, like, he starts acting like a brother.
No, and he even mentions in, like, his inner dialogue, he's talking about, he, like, laments about him not accepting Cam as his brother earlier on. He kind of, like, has a moment of, like, self-hate where he's like, why would I not, like, I don't know, I just felt like that scene was really important for him. Of course it was. But also for them to finally get the full truth of, like, who they are and, like, what they mean to each other. Although I did not like Cam almost dying.
I mean, it was a little stressful, even for me, knowing that he's not gonna die. I was like, wow, okay. I mean, she really makes it seem like he's dying, His heart is, like, he's got heart palpitations, and his eyes are, I don't know. I was like, okay, Cam, something's wrong.
I didn't remember the poisoning, so I'm like, what the heck? I was like, is this man having an early heart attack? Is he having a stroke? Is he having a panic attack? What's going on?
Right? Same. I didn't remember that. So when it started happening, I was like, what the hell is going on here? He's like 30 something. Why is he having a heart attack out in the woods? All right, let's get into the monster of this book. S?
For Kev, well, I only have it for Kev. For
Okay,
Kev,
yeah, same.
I just have down that his monster is not feeling worthy of having that constant thought in his head of not being worthy enough for Win, of not being able to love her the way she deserves.
I have a little quote for him. It's Cam's POV, and he says, "What if you were taught all during your childhood that the only reason for your existence was to inflict pain on others, that violence was all you were good for? How do you unlearn that? You can't. You cover it as best as you can, always aware of what lies beneath the surface." So yeah, that's essentially, how he feels. That he's only good for violence and pain, darkness. He's, the Hades to her Persephone.
Yeah, and I think having Cam's dialogue and just having his perspective on certain aspects in this book was really important because he's very much in touch with his emotions and he's very much, capable of naming his emotions, whereas Kev, on the flip side, is not able to do that.
Yeah, they kind of are night and day as far as, brothers.
Yeah.
But I feel like Kev is able to, he won't be able to express it, say it out loud, but he's able to do little things for her, show it.
But by the end, he's, really romantic with his words.
Oh, yeah.
He can't, Kev, I don't know, man. A flip, a switch got flipped inside him, and he's, he's just spewing out prose, yeah.
But do you feel that ever really got resolved as far as his feelings towards himself?
No.
I don't think so. But I think this quote explains it. When Cam says, "How do you unlearn that?" You can't. He's that will be a part of him and his journey for the entirety of his life. He grew up that way. That's just,
He hasn't learned to love himself. And I feel like even by the end of this book, like we just said, I don't get the sense that he, loves himself, but he's content with himself. And I do feel like he's living for Win and not for himself.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
If Win somehow, disappears, she dies or whatever, he doesn't stand a chance. Over. He literally, he cannot live without her. He is living for her. His reason for living is for her.
Do you think he would keep on living for their kids, though?
I think he's the type of guy that will wither away and be a shadow of the man he once was, even with his children.
We've read a lot of books with parents like that, haven't we?
We have.
I agree. It's that kind of relationship where the love between those two people does prevail over
his love for his children.
The love that they may have for their kids, yeah.
Yeah. It's sad, but like I said, man, I want a man that loves me the way Kev loved Win.
As for Win, there's an interesting passage where they're arguing, her and Kev, and he says, "You were never alone. You've never been unloved." And she says, "I want to be loved as a woman, not as a child, a sister, or an invalid." And I think that's where it lies for her. The whole monster is she's tired of being seen as everything besides a woman who is capable of desire, who is capable of love, who is capable of being loved and desired. All those things. She's tired of not being seen as that. And oh my God, does it hit,
No, and I think her strength does lie in not acclimating to that idea that she is just this and this and this. She becomes stronger because she's fighting for more. She knows what she wants and she's chasing after it.
She's not settling for that. Yeah. It's interesting, I don't think that there are any other characters like her on that front.
No.
From what I can remember anyway.
I don't think so.
I meaning Lisa Kleypas.
Yeah, no, same.
So yeah, I honestly just appreciate that with every book, you know, she tries to bring in something new, a different perspective to, you know, show us different kinds of women, different kinds of women with different backgrounds, different kinds of men with different backgrounds, and how does that, you know, work? And yeah, I just appreciate that, you know, it's very varied in that way.
And I feel like in the same case for her males as well, they're all very different. And I think Cam and Kev, you might worry that their stories might be the same because they are both Romani people. You kind of worry that maybe their stories could mirror each other, but like they're not mirror each other, but like be so similar to one another. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but nope, that's not the case. They're so different.
No, it's important to have characters like Win that you know have those feelings, because Lord knows we can all empathize.
Yes,
true.
Yeah, did you have anything, Zeph?
No, I have nothing left. That was my notes are done.
So, I was gonna jump right over ranking the characters for a moment there.
What do you mean? Are we done? We're done.
Oh.
That has been all for this episode of Romancing the Monsters. Thanks so much for joining us.
Look at her trying to close off the episode.
You wish. Okay, let's start the ranking of the Hathaways. You got Amelia and Win, and then you have Cam and Kev, brothers and sisters.
Oh, yeah. Okay, this one's easy for me. It's, okay, second spot for the males is Cam, and then first spot's Kev, and then for the females, it's Amelia and then Win.
Yeah, same for me.
You started from the bottom or the top?
So the bottom.
Okay, so then, yeah, same for me, I would say. Yeah.
All right, that was easy.
Wow, we're in agreement for both men and women. Yeah. Look at us. So, this is, in fact, it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a little bit chaotic, I won't lie. We were kind of all over the place, but hopefully you were able to follow along. We probably forgot a lot of things. So if that's the case and it's something that you really wanted us to talk about or get our perspectives on, or you have something you want to say to us about it, you can reach us online. We are on Instagram at Romancing the Monsters Podcast, as well as on Twitter at the RTM Pod. Also on TikTok at Romancing the Monsters Pod, and YouTube. Just search for the name of our podcast and you should be able to find us. You can also email us if you prefer the longer form. We love emails. You can find us at romanceandthemonsterspodcast@gmail.com. Why are you making that face, though?
Because I was dying. You're like, we love emails. We do.
We love emails.
I love getting them. It makes me feel special.
They are. And if you're looking for me specifically, I'm on both Instagram and Twitter at Foes and Lovers. Forgot there for a moment. Who am I?
And you can find me on both Twitter and Instagram at But This Book.
And you can find me, Seth, on both Instagram and Twitter at Pros with Woes. And also, please feel free to subscribe to our podcast on any of the podcast platforms. And also, if you can rate or review us on Apple Podcasts, that'd be great. If you would like to.
2 weeks from now, we'll be reading Tempt Me at Twilight. So get a head start with that. Start reading that if you want to read along with us. Harry, Poppy, we'll see. Oh, that rhymed.
You're such a nerd.
We will see. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.